All right, you got your wish. That's the power of giving feedback, quote unquote. That's what it's called. Be generous here today. In the latest hot fixes, Gilded Crests are now available from 8 keystones. Will you be satisfied? That's the question. We've heard feedback around the challenges in the new keystone affix and the scaling structure, as well as the difficulty some players are facing with making progress. With hot fixes that are now live, Rune Crests are now awarded up to Mythic 7. Gilded Crests are now awarded at 8. So yeah, I we talked about this on stream actually today before we realized they were going to change anything. I figured 10 was the right number for these, to be honest, because Gilded Crest allows you to craft I think it's 636 item. And yeah, obviously getting Gilded Crest is a key like source of progression for a lot of people, but a 636 item is certainly far more valuable than the gear that would come from an 8. Now, somebody said it should come from a 7. That's what we were actually reacting to. That's a bit ridiculous because, again, it doesn't really matter, what we think, but the fact that you would get a 616 from a 7's vault and then you'd be able to craft a 636, like it's just like totally divergent power scales. So that's why I figured 10 was the right number for Gilded Crest. You can actually upgrade your gear all the way to 619. I believe these are the right numbers. 619 with the ruined crests, So that seems like plenty of gear to do an 8. But yeah, like I said, power of complaining. I mean, really, that's kind of what it is. But I don't know. It doesn't really matter because one way or the other, I think crests don't come fast enough. We talked about this on stream too. I think it should be 15 instead of 12. A lot of people say something like if you didn't only get 5 from a depleted key, more people would finish keys, but I don't really buy that. Most people are not doing considering we're doing keys on day 2 of the week, maybe day 1 even of the week, and people are leaving at the first sign of failure. They obviously don't care about currency. Like that doesn't even make sense. So anyway, yeah, that's the one change. That's not the big change. Let's talk about this. As part of our ongoing commitment to the tuning of both gameplay and rewards, we have some adjustments today, and we're working on more coming soon. Mythic Keystone fixes. Brawl was in the chat. We were talking about this with him. Increases the duration of the buffs granted by the bargain affixes to 30 seconds. It was 20. So this is actually very interesting because let's read what they say first. We've been closely monitoring the impact of the bonuses provided by Xalotad's bargain affixes, and we're increasing their overall power level on players. We will continue to monitor the effectiveness of these buffs. Never, if you gave me 10 guesses, ask me how they're going to nerf lower Mythic Plus dungeons, never would have even considered that this would be the way they buff it. Pretty smart, pretty smart choice. I mean, it's a pretty smart choice. They don't need to do, all these people were like, they're too hard, blah, 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 blah. This is a pretty smart choice because the buff it's supposed to help. It's supposed to matter. Unfortunately, I don't think Blizzard did a great job of making them matter. But yeah, an extra 10 seconds. So that's, a third, like basically a 30% buff to the uptime on these things. They don't last very long, to be honest, but like they don't spawn very frequently. So I'd like to see the actual uptime on them, but I didn't realize that every single one was 20 seconds as well. So that's news to me. Now the big news, big news. Xalotad's Guile now increases enemy health and damage by 10% instead of 20. This is for 12 and up. With the increase to the buffs granted to players by Xalotad's Bargain, we're reducing the effectiveness of Xalotad's Guile to allow players to push deeper into the Keystone system with current item levels. Good idea. Good idea. We were looking at the stats today. There's something like 6,000 players that have, they're close to 2,700. And there was only like 600 players that are above that, basically, like that are actually doing 12s and higher. 600 characters have done, like, I can't, should we just look at it again? Let's just look at it again. I was actually really shocked by this stuff. Season rating cutoff. People didn't know about this. You can go here on Raider.io. Usually this is something that gets talked about at the end of an expansion or the season I'm in. So look at the difference. Within 100 points, you go from top 1% to top. So this is supposed to be a huge jump, right? Can you see it? I don't know that. Oh yeah, you can see it. Let's look for Dragonflight Season 4. Look at this. That's a dramatic jump. 250 points almost. That's a dramatic jump, okay? Ridiculous jump, right? I bet it's probably that way. Yeah, yeah. That's 400 points, okay? That's like what would be the key levels? I don't know, but yeah, that's a huge, huge, huge jump. Season 1, 100 points. Not even 100 points. That means like pretty much every serious character is stuck at this number. And to get to this number, you need to do 12s. I don't think, like for some reason, I don't know how the hell they messed this up that bad too, but for some reason, if you just double upgrade keys, it gives you like a lot of score. So a lot of people are just double upgrading 11s because they can't do 12s at all. Well, now that's going to change. Obviously, that 10% number is going to make a big difference, I'd imagine. But yeah, either way, it's not even 100 points different. It's actually less than 100 points. And it goes from 6,192 to 618. How nuts is that? That's pretty wild. So yeah, good change. I mean, not what I would have recommended. We talked about it today. Me and Grawl were talking, had a little bit of a back and forth. He was kind of giving a little ribbing me about it. I would say that the death affix is the problem, because no matter how hard the 12s are, it's still doable if the timers are lenient, right? Like if you just have a clean ass run, you can upgrade a key as long as you're not getting punished. But like the punishments are wild, dude. Like even one death at that level, it's like, oh, man, that might be it. You know what I mean? How many we have had 9, I think maybe even 10 already, and we've killed like 2 bosses. 2 total bosses have died in like 10 attempts at 12s. So that's a lot to say with the community, but also to do with the difficulty of the dungeon. I'll probably make another video on all this at the end of the week now. But tomorrow we're going to be hitting this hard. Anyway, other changes. Scheduled maintenance, that hasn't happened yet. This is a very strange change. But actually, no, this is actually what people wanted, so we'll come back to it. Zolrama's Gatekeepers, Wrath. Okay, so this is the AoE damage. This mob, they're like basically putting a sign around his neck. Like this is like the 3rd change to this mob now. They're putting like a neon sign that's pointing here. Like, bro, kill this mob, you idiots. Attack this guy. Like, how many more changes do they need to make to these guys? Skeletal, they give a ton of count, by the way. Skeletal monstrosities, enemy forces contributions increased by 20%. So now that's very interesting, because like, what are we talking about route wise now? Do we not even, I don't even know, what the numbers mean on those, like 20%. What does that even mean? But like, can we now do different skips? You know what I mean? Are we back to being able to skip a lot of stuff in this dungeon? We'll find out. Stay tuned. Kyrian weapons. The effects of bloody javelins no longer stack. Surgeon Stitch Flesh. Health reduced by 20%. It's like, okay. So now they're making it. This is what a lot of people asked for. A lot of people actually asked them to remove the weapons. But I said that wasn't going to happen. Surgeon Stitch Flesh's health reduced by 20%. Creation's Festering Rot again nerfed. This is now the 2nd nerf to the Creation's AoE damage, stacking AoE damage. 20% nerf to the health. It's probably a bigger nerf than the weapon stacking. I don't really understand what the stacking would look like. Like I don't even know how the numbers like math out on it at all. But if you use all 3 of them at once, I don't know. But I assume this is a bigger nerf. It's not just a net change. I imagine it's a nerf, because that fight is still ridiculous. And like a lot of people had, suggested that when you fail the first pull, you're just done. You have no shot. This is a very good change to stop that from being true. Skarmarok, that's the rock fella. His health has been reduced by 10%, and that needed to happen months ago, honestly, because the fortified shell is a serious mechanic. Like you constantly have to do with this mechanic, and you constantly have to kill these ads. So you're pretty much, you're basically never attacking the boss. Like you're never effectively attacking the boss. Now they also made it so he's stunned for 4 seconds after the shell is broken. I'm unaware if this stun has a secondary effect. Can anybody confirm that to me? Does he have like 100% damage taken type thing? I don't know the answer to that. Maybe not. But regardless, they made that longer. The crystalline eruption damage reduced by 15%. So they're just making the fight easier, and I think the health is going to go a long, long way. Now, Void Speaker Iric. Or is he just Iric now? Yeah, his health has been reduced by 10%. Increase the cooldown of Entropic Reckoning. Don't know what that is. But yeah, 10% health on 2 bosses in there. that dungeon's timer is actually pretty lenient, but that's going to make it very lenient. I feel like that's a big change when you have things like this. You know what I mean? Health and damage. Like that's a pretty big number there. So we'll see how it goes. If this is actually live tomorrow, stay tuned. Maybe we'll finally have some success in 12s. A 10% damage taken nerf. Like I should take 10% less damage across the board. I still have no idea. People tried to explain to this. I made a whole video on this. The guy called me an idiot. I still don't understand how it works. If you have a 10% modifier and then the fortified modifier, well, what do you do? Do you have a 20% plus 10% equals 30%? Do you have 10% of 20, which is 22%? I don't understand. People try to explain it to me. You could try again. I'm not going to understand it. I'm just speaking. It doesn't mean anything, okay? I'm not going to understand this. But anyway, it sounds good. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.